Are you still in contact with anybody who was with you during the war? For Mr. Crawford, that would be fellow soldiers, and for Mr. Shaw, that would be family members or friends.
Yeah. So several years ago, it was some of my soldiers. They were the young guys that I had harassed and harangued me until I set up a Facebook account. It was actually a bummer. It's sort of funny. One night I was talking, the fellow I mentioned that I called the night we were notified. Patty Walsh is his name. Mighty fine soldier. So he and I stay in very close contact. We see each other probably once or twice a year. We talk pretty regularly. So one night he called and we're getting caught up, and he starts telling me what all these guys, these young guys who were in the platoon, are doing. You know, so-and-so got out, and hey, Lehigh picked him up, so he lives down by you now. And he's going for his doctorate. He's going to be an English prof. We used to joke about him. His name was Reebson. Everyone called him Reeb. And we called him the warrior poet because, like, you'd stop somewhere and he'd, like, produce a book of poetry. It's like, dude, you're in, like, you know, Solder City. Why are you reading poetry? It was weird. So all these kinds of things. You know, so-and-so got married. You know, so-and-so had a kid. And I was like the life was getting sucked out of me. I'm thinking, man, all the kids, they all stay in touch with Patty, and no one's like letting me know what's going on. So I just said, man, I guess it's good that they're staying in touch with you so you can let me know what's happening. He's like, they're not calling me, dude. It's all on Facebook. So then I started getting phone calls. I guess he put something on Facebook about me being some Cro-Magnon redneck who doesn't have Facebook. So boom, I got Facebook. One of them called and was like, I am walking you through the steps to set up a Facebook. I'm like, I can figure it out. So I set it up, and the group from 91, the platoon that I was with, not everybody's involved. We got a little private thing on Facebook that we post to periodically. There's probably about half of us, so maybe about 15 or 17 of us, maybe, that still stay in touch through it. I still see my one buddy, Johnny Fry, the guy who got knocked out during the Battle of Norfolk. I still see him periodically. He comes down to the house and hangs out. He lives up in, it's darn near Canada. I think if he spits out his back door, he's spitting on Canadian soil. He's up in upstate New York, and every once in a while, if I get to go out west, I stop and see a few other friends out there. I got some that are up in New York, in the city itself, that I see periodically. The guys from 04, 05, yeah, I still see a number of them pretty regularly. We have some reunions. Once a year we get together. Obviously not everybody makes it. And that reunion is larger than just my element. It's our higher headquarters that has a reunion that a lot of us try to go to. So you stay in touch. It's kind of cool because they're the kind of guys who you can not have spoken to for a year. You know, when you pick up the phone, it's them. You just kind of pick up your conversation where it left off a year ago. You know, they're that kind of guy. You know, like the 3 o'clock in the morning friend. Like if they call at 3 o'clock in the morning and say they need something, I'm getting in the truck and going. That's the kind of guys they are. So, yeah, you stay in touch with them as best you can. The young guys, they're hard to keep track of because they're bebopping around the country doing different stuff. Some of them are still in. Some of them have done well for themselves and advanced within the Army. A lot of them have gotten out because they wanted to go do other things, and I've been very fortunate to be able to help a few of them get some jobs that they really wanted to do. Been able to put some references and some phone calls in for a few of them. I feel good about that. I like the fact that some of them are doing so well. So yeah, I stay in touch.
All right. As far as I'm concerned, I'm in contact with my closest family members, my aunt, my sister, what you would call half-sister, my older sister. We have the same dad, not the same mom. And I also have a contact with my brother. So my family members, I stay in contact with them. And what I did was, before 2003, before I brought my family over here, most of my family members are now here, my siblings, my mom, I brought them over, thank God. So what happened is, before then, it was very intense, but after they came over, the responsibility kind of went down from my side a little bit. Because let me tell you something about Africa. When you grow up how I grew up, all right? If you're the first son in the family, you carry a lot of burden, a lot of responsibility. Even if you have older sisters, you are in charge. You are in loco parentis. You take care of everybody, all right? You are the parent when your mom or dad pass. So that's what happened to me. My dad died, and I have all these siblings, you know, because my dad married more than one woman. In Africa, the culture is allowed, polygamy is allowed. And there's several of us from several moms. But I'm the first son, so the burden is on me, you know. So I have to take care of, help them out. They were really young, relatively young. The one was very close. My brother was very close. That is one of the sad part. That is one of the, that was one of my biggest loss of the war because he was killed. So I have other siblings. When I brought them over here, it was really better for me. But I'm still in contact with my family. But what I did was I talked to all of them. We opened an account. Every month we all chip in like $20. So if anybody has a problem in Africa, we just take out of that account and send it there. But you can't believe it. It hardly stays. We hardly get like $1,000 in there. $400 or $500 is gone. $200-300 gone, because there's always funerals. There's always somebody sick. There's always something happening. Somebody's in need. You know. So we all dip in there and take it. Initially, it used to be just me, but now I spread it out. And I told my brothers when they came over here that we're here, they have to work hard. You know, so although they never had like good education over there, they never had a foundation. The one I think was pretty smart, but he was too much in a hurry, you know. As if he want to get things going, he became a truck driver. He's doing relatively well. You know, so the other ones are working in factories or whatever, warehouses and stuff, you know, group homes, whatever, you name them, they're there. So I have like 14 members here, 13, 14 members of my family. So we all keep in contact now. You know, we help the families over there. My friends, though, I do miss. Like my college roommate, Sorifa Suluku, I don't know where he is. Somebody told me he went to another country called the Gambia. Kombafa Suluku, when I was in England, we talked briefly, but I missed him so much. I miss most of my friends. I don't have contact with them anymore because they're all dispersed because of the war. I guess some of them don't even know I'm in the United States. They knew when I went to England, but some of them never knew I came to the United States. So that is the sad part because I miss some of those guys.
Okay, so my question's for Mr. Crawford. I recently watched a TED Talk where veterans discussed what they missed about war. Is there anything specific that you miss about it?
I don't think those vets were talking about what they missed about war. What kind of stuff were they talking about missing about war?
It was more like they were talking about like the friendships and stuff they made.
All right, so it's not the war they're missing.
Yeah, it was just an aspect.
Yeah, because you don't miss the war. You develop a camaraderie that isn't normal in this society anymore. I was paired up in '91 with a thug from Detroit. Dawson Washington was his name. You never seen such a Mutt and Jeff pairing. I mean, I'm a redneck. Country boy and this downtown Detroit thug. We did not like each other. Like, it's hard to explain. How do you? Anywhere else in the world, we would not get along. You know what I'm saying? Like, we are the flip sides of the coin, and we didn't necessarily get along, but we totally got along. How does that for not making any sense whatsoever? No doubt in my mind that he would do anything to make sure I didn't get hurt, and I was going to do anything to make sure he didn't get hurt. We still talk. We still chat on Facebook. We have absolutely nothing in common. Nothing except that. But that's enough. You know what I mean? I do miss that. There's a connectivity that you have. This idea that everybody's your buddy, that's a farce. That's like a movie thing. I mean, there are some of my soldiers I hated. I didn't like them. They were bad men. But most of them, the majority of them, you build a very strong bond with. Some of them you don't even realize how strong it is, the mutual suffering. I totally messed one guy up. I asked him to do something particularly uncomfortable. I had a task to do that I didn't want to assign to anybody, but I needed help, so I asked him to help me. I had no idea that I was gonna like break him. He's like one of the guys who I miss the most. He doesn't talk to anybody. It's not that he's not friendly or anything like that. Like if I see him, I have bumped into him. Out of the blue one day, a couple of years back, he did call me. I think we were on the phone for like 3 hours. I broke him. I had him do something that was just too much for him. It's probably my one real regret. I don't really have, well, one of two. I don't really have other regrets. That one decision is a bad one. God, I'd do anything for Ben. Anything. You don't get that out here. There's nothing like it here. The other thing you have to be careful of, I mean, that camaraderie piece is huge and it's awesome. But you have to be careful about the adrenaline junkie stuff. Did they talk about that in the TED Talk at all? Did they mention anything about the adrenaline junkie stuff?
No, not.
They left that out because not anybody, but adrenaline's an amazing thing. You can really get to like it, and that's a dangerous thing. When things go bad, your vision changes. I don't mean like your perspective. I mean your physical vision changes. Your senses are different. Adrenaline is an amazing thing. I remember in one bad situation, I tore my pectoral muscle from the top to the bottom. I could stick my fingers in between the segmented muscle. I didn't even know I was hurt. Had no idea. It took about 2 hours, and I realized I couldn't raise my weapon. I thought, oh, this is bad. You know, I can't raise it. So I switched to my sidearm because my right arm was good. My left arm was just hanging. But I had no idea. My buddy Ogre got a piece of a broken bullet through the flesh of his arm. He had no idea. He's bleeding all over the place. We're like, Og, you know, you got come over here. We got to wrap that up. No freaking clue. You actually can grow to like that, and that's a shockingly dangerous thing because then you pursue it. So you have to be careful of that. Some guys, I don't think I ever got addicted to it or anything because it's balanced, at least in my head, it was balanced by a logical fear that if the adrenaline was up, that means some of my guys were going to get hurt. And that's not a good thing, but you can totally get wrapped up in it. And to be honest, there are times that sort of thing, I do think about that. It's not like it's, you know, like a junkie after the next fix per se, but if I get really mad, I feel it and I like it. That's why I try not to get mad, because I can get stupid. You just recorded that. I shouldn't have said that. That's it.
Mr. Crawford, has the military instituted any sort of training to help soldiers either reduce the risk of developing PTSD or to better treat it when it does occur?
Yeah, they've got a lot of initiatives right now. When I first got in, the big push was to learn to ignore your body. So if you were injured, you just kind of, the old adage was suck it up, drive on. We used to joke, we called it Ranger candy. Everyone carried like the 1,200 milligram Motrins, and if you felt pain, you popped it. So you didn't pay attention to your physical, and they never talked about the mental. You just just move forward, just keep moving. Since 2004 maybe, 2005, they started implementing a change. So soldiers coming out of theater would have to go through what they called it a post-deployment medical screening. Basically, they ask you a whole lot of questions about your body, were you ever hurt, that sort of stuff. Most lie. Most say, no, it's all good, 100%. Because the last thing you want to do is get like stuck in some medical holding facility somewhere, with a bunch of doctors poking at you. They also ask a lot of mental health questions to make sure that you're adjusting. Additionally, they changed the pre-mobilization training. So before you go, you get a lot of briefings. The briefings mostly focus on you paying attention to the people around you. So you watch the guy to your left and right to make sure you're not seeing symptoms of PTSD. But have you ever looked at the symptoms of PTSD? You ever look at them? Has anyone ever looked at the symptoms of PTSD? What are they like? What?
It's pretty much anything.
I got forgetful today. Well, I got PTSD. So somebody gets moody. Oh, obviously PTSD. Maybe they're just pissed off about something. Maybe somebody's having a bad day. So they give you this long list, and you watch for these things. And my personal opinion is those things, they're okay. The only real good thing that they've done is that they've destigmatized going for any kind of mental health to an extent. When I first went into the Army, you didn't go seek assistance for mental health. It doesn't matter how bad it is. You just suck it up. Move forward. Things will change. Now, if you're really struggling and you're suffering at all mentally, you can go and get help. Now, the quality of that help varies. I remember one sociologist in particular who just ruined soldiers' careers. They would go in because they struggled, and next thing he's giving them a no weapons profile, a no nothing. Well, you're talking about a door kicker. You take his weapon away, and what is he? Nothing. It's not like we had I didn't have a technical job, y'all. My job is to hurt people. That's pretty much it. So when you take a guy and he's not allowed to do that sort of thing anymore, at least for a time, you just ripped his job away. You didn't just rip his job away, you took him out of the one thing he had, that squad, that fire team, that scout team, whatever, if he's an infantryman or an armorman, he's a tank crew. You took him out of that because he can't do that job anymore. So they may have reduced the stigma, but you totally screwed the guy. You took him away from the one group of people who actually might get it. When I came back in 91, I had to go through, back then it was a normal screening, they called it, and they had literally, does anyone know who Michael Bolton is? He's like an old singer who had like really long hair but totally bald on top. Like, what is up with that? Yeah, so this little short Michael Bolton looking dude with a sweater vest and a bow tie. And they had me walk into his office and answer his questions. I loved it. I'll never forget it. Because he's like, do you have dreams? Like, do you mean like aspirations? Or do you mean do I have like dreams at night? Like, really? The Army sent you to me? No. And then he asked me, are you violent? I don't think I'm violent. Are you sure? No, I'm not. I mean, I'm no more violent than I was before. The only difference is now, if I choose to be violent, I'm highly effective. That's the difference. But I'm no more violent than I was. He kicked me out after that. Like, sent me out of the office. I'm like, did I answer wrong? Or am I okay? So that was like useless. Today it's a little bit better, but it really depends on the quality of the doc that you get to, the sociologist or the psychologist. Some of them are great. The Army does have a habit now of trying to push guys into group therapy. Okay, I hate it. I'm not gonna lie, I don't like this group thing. I don't need to sit in a circle singing Kumbaya with a whole bunch of guys who are messed up in the head, all right? Because all that does is help me to be messed up in the head. It doesn't work for me. being with trees and away from y'all, that works for me. That's my thing. All right? Getting out on the Appalachian, that's my therapy. The Army doesn't recognize my therapy. Not that, I'm not saying I was crazy and they sent me off to some group, but I had to send soldiers to group. Was forced to. And not all of them responded very well. I remember one went in Baghdad. We had to actually, he was upset because he's like, you have to set a whole mission to go down Route Irish to drop me off at a clinic. So you guys are going to run the risk of hurting people to make me go to this clinic. And it's like, yep. We called him Cooter. I won't tell you why. That would be one of them school inappropriate things. So Cooter had some problems. He was having a difficult time recognizing the difference between enemy and non-combatant. Things had gone bad. The good news is he recognized it. He knew it. He came to me. He's like, I just want to kill everybody. He wanted payback, which is not uncommon. But he recognized it, and he maintained enough control to not do it, but knew he was losing control. So immediately, I did take him to a psychologist who was pretty cool. And I made the decision to pull him off a mission and have him do some other things. He didn't leave the platoon. He just did not go out on missions. And that was good because he was still around us. He was still with us. But then they made me send him to this combat stress clinic. He was down there for exactly 14 hours, and he contacted me. I had to come get him because he said there were some real crazy people here, real crazy people. And being around them isn't going to help me because they're just feeding my desire to hurt other people. So I didn't view him as a danger to himself. I viewed him only as a danger to the indigenous population. So we brought him back, and we basically kept him off mission. We had him doing other things on the FOB, the forward operating base, sorry. When we got back, he was offered a lot of counseling. He was offered a lot of things, some of which he took the Army up on, some of the things he didn't. So it really the Army's trying, but what are you asking people to do? It's not natural, is it, to go and hurt other people? The most natural thing in the world is to shoot at someone who's shooting at you. Trust me, that's very natural. But the other stuff isn't quite natural. The adrenaline high with the impressive ultra low that comes after it, with the boredom, with another adrenaline high, constant concerns about who's getting hurt next, who's dying next, kind of a thing. Some folks can't separate that. They take it very personally, as opposed to just, it is what it is. It's how it works. So for those guys, there are some things in place, but you got to remember that every individual is different. The Army likes to do things where first you do step A, then B, then C. This is the order we do things in. That doesn't always work because we're so different. But just one thing. It seems like today there's a very popular adage that everybody who comes home is in some way broken. Y'all, that ain't even close to right. You might have some trouble readjusting. Doesn't mean you're nuts. Not everybody's got crazy flashbacks. Not everybody's got, sure there are memories and there are things that kick in sometimes unannounced, unexpected, but doesn't mean you're nuts. Might not even mean you need help necessarily. Just might mean you want to talk to somebody who understands exactly what you're saying, not just some doc. So, sorry, that was a long tirade.
Here's another question for you, Mr. Crawford. You kind of talked about it a little bit, but when you were over in active war zones, how did the locals treat you?
Mileage varies on that one. There is no one answer for it. It depends on who you're talking about, where you were. Any of y'all paying attention to what's going on in Syria right now? You are aware that there's a civil war going on there right now? One of the groups that's helping to fight against ISIL is the Peshmerga. It's the Kurdish force. I like the Kurds. The Kurds were very cool. The Kurds treated us very, very well. And they're good. They fight really, really well. Remember one of them, he died just to make sure that we didn't. He was tight. He was on a checkpoint. He was on the top of the checkpoint was a little pillbox. So he was up there with an RPK, medium light machine gun. And VBID was coming in, driving in to try to basically blow the gate so that folks could come in. And he rode it the whole way in, just lighting it up, stayed on target. He could have jumped, he could have tried to clear himself. He lit it up, it did not stop. He just squeezed and rode it all the way in. Like we only found parts, of him. When that vehicle went off, he was done. He could have gotten probably somewhat clear, leaping out back behind the wall. I mean, he might have gotten tore up, but he probably wouldn't have been dead, but never left, wasn't willing to give in. So they were awesome. Not everybody's awesome like that. Depending on where you were at. I remember in 91, some of the Shiites in the south of Iraq, they were very timid around us, like they were nervous. They weren't sure if they could trust us. I remember one, after the war was over and we were out doing a clearance mission, we had set up a little quick rally point, and this woman was brought in. She was y'all's age. She was just a kid, actually. She's not even a grown woman yet. Very pregnant. And she was having complications, so we immediately wanted to call in a Dustoff for a medevac, a helicopter, to get her out of there, because we weren't. The Army's medical training does not prepare you for like OBGYN stuff, so it's like, I don't know what I'm doing with this. So just get a helicopter and get him out of here. They wouldn't let us, because they weren't sure what we were going to do with her. So we finally negotiated that her brother, who was maybe a year younger, maybe a year older, like right around the same age, he would go with, which is really non-standard. We don't do it. You don't take non-standard or unnecessary personages on a Dustoff flight, because weight matters. We let him go, and I have no idea what happened to her, no clue. I mean, she went off to some medical facility somewhere. I hope she's fine. Then you had other people who hated us, like 2004. I'm blanking on the month right now. This happens all the time when I try to remember this stuff. You guys heard of Abu Ghraib? Is that prison where they took all those stupid photos of people where they're mistreating them? The town of Abu Ghraib was just a few miles northwest of where our fob was. I should say west-northwest. And before that issue, going through there wasn't a real problem. The people weren't friendly, but they weren't hostile. I would have classified them as neutral. The minute those images came out, it was game on. You didn't want to go driving through there. You were getting ambushed. You were getting IED'd. They were always hitting you. So it really varied depending on where you were at. I will tell you, the farther north I went, the more I liked the people, because it was more Kurdish. Baghdad depended on your neighborhood. I never got a warm and fuzzy down in like Latifia Mahmudiyya, which is just south of Baghdad. Bad place. Just don't go there. Or if you go, make sure you're ready. So it totally varied. That's what I got.
This is for both of you. Have you ever spoken to your children about what you experienced in the war?
Honestly, I have not, because I have not, but I plan to do that one day, because they are all relatively young, but some of them are hitting the age now. They're still in middle school, When all this happened, they were little. I just want them to grow and just enjoy childhood before you start experiencing the war. But probably at high school level, I'll talk to them, but I haven't spoken to them. They get a glimpse of it, that I was fighting there and stuff, But first of all, with someone like me, I have to get them interested first in the country there, and I've never taken them there yet, Things are not right, things are getting better, but I want it to be to the level probably where I can go on vacation and maybe take them, show them expose them to other family members, show them like my hometown and all that place. And then they start asking questions. I think that would be appropriate. You tell them.
I've talked more to my son than to my daughters about it. When I first came back, well, my youngest, she didn't know who I was, and she was just little. So, me being gone isn't even part of her memory. She doesn't remember. She knows stories. Like when we go driving, I'd hold my wife's hand. She would scream and throw things at me because she didn't know who I was, and she just knew that I was like taking mom's attention. For my son, it was a little bit worse. I remember when I was, I don't know what month. It was early on. I got a letter from my wife that my son, Riley, was very upset. Some little kid, I don't know, some kid at preschool or whatnot, told him that I was going to die, that I was a bad guy, that I was over there killing people and things like that. So she tried to, chill him out. I got to come home on a 2-week leave. He wasn't sure if he should come to me or not. That sucked. That made me want to hurt people. So after I got back, the conversations changed. When he was very little, it was more about the catching bad guys, because we did do a lot of that. We did a lot of specific targeted missions, looking for certain IED builders or certain individuals that mattered in the weapons of mass destruction program in Iraq or other things like that. So we looked to catch them. We didn't look to eliminate them. We wanted them because of their intelligence value. So that happened sometimes. A lot of the missions didn't revolve around people. It revolved around locations or items and things like that. So, and other missions were just about protecting certain people that we had, high-value assets of our own. So you didn't go out necessarily looking to hurt anybody. You went out just to make sure that your guy didn't get hurt. So I talked more about that sort of thing with him when he was little. And then as he got older, he expressed interest himself in going in. Military is kind of a family business in my family. So we talked a little bit more then. It varies, like what we talk about per se. Sometimes he'll ask questions about things directly. Other times he'll say, hey, I remember this, or I heard this, just to make a conversation about it. But it's not something that we talk about all the time. And my older daughter doesn't care about it at all. She just wanted it to be done. So it's a different thing. She doesn't care about the war. She doesn't care about that part of the world. That part of the world could go away. It's just her being pissed that I was gone for so long. The younger one, I don't know. She's 12. I have no idea what the 12-year-old thinks ever about anything, let alone this. My son is the one who's maintained interest, which kind of scares me a little bit, because I've told him he can't do the kind of work that I did. He's not allowed to do that. He can go into the Army, he can go into the Air Force, he can do whatever he wants. Please, God, not the Navy. But he's not allowed to do the work I did. So I guess he asks out of just professional interest to an extent. It's less that he asks less personal questions and more just about general stuff. But I've given him a little bit of personal. So, yeah.
My question is for Mr. Crawford.
What was the hardest part about returning to civilian life, and what did the military teach you that you still use today?
Life was the hardest thing. Everybody freaks out about everything around here. And it doesn't matter. Like, nobody's dying today, you know what I mean? Everyone gets bent out of shape about stuff. And then stuff that you ought to get bent out of shape, y'all don't. That was the hard thing. And all these sundry distractions that you guys don't just want, you actively seek these distractions. Didn't make any sense to me. You guys devalue things that should be valued. you take advantage. I mean, I don't mean you do. I mean, you take advantage of that which you ought to not. I'm not sure I'm done being angry about that. That was the hard thing. I mean, my wife likes to tell people, all right, so in 04-05, it was an asymmetric war, right? So your enemy is anywhere wearing whatever. So you never know who it is. One of their one of their techniques that they used was to, on overpasses, to drop grenades off the backside. So as you go under an overpass, they drop a grenade on you, or try to. So if you're driving down the road, you don't stay in the same lane. You're cutting constantly, right? So when you hit an overpass, you cut hard. So you might be in lane 1, cut to lane 3. You know, so that way when they drop it, it blows up over there and not on top of you. It doesn't kill your gunner or whatnot. So I remember when I first got back, and I don't know how many days I was home. I have no idea. We were driving down 78. And you know South Mountain, the overpass is on the top of it? So we're just driving, and I'm just talking, and I'm pretty sure I was in the minivan, her vehicle. And the kids were in the back. And we were going west on 78, and I just, paying no attention to what I was doing, just wham, across the 2 lanes. She didn't yell, she didn't scream, nothing, to her credit. It wasn't until I was going down the hill on the other side that I realized she was holding on with her, for dear life. She was gripping the screen bar and gripping the dashboard. And I looked at my speed, and I was doing about 90. And because that's, we had a joke, you drive it like you stole it. Speed is your friend. They have a hard time timing the IEDs when you're going fast. Then hit the brakes, slow it down, then gun it and go. So I did that when I first came home. Just if I was driving on my own and paying attention to the road, I didn't. I drove like you're supposed to drive. But if I would get lost in conversation with the guy next to me, done. We went to Vermont to visit my brother, and he had me drive. We went out to get pizza to bring it back to the house. And I didn't know it till afterwards. My wife said, here, you have him drive, and you watch how he drives. He's going to kill somebody. I didn't. So when we got back, we pulled in. My brother's like, dude, did you see any of the stop signs? Like, you don't obey anything. You just take over the road. But again, the whole ride, he's talking to me. So I was like, just doing what you do. Fortunately, that's not one of the things I use in regular life. It's just getting used to like what's going on. And like my favorite place to eat in Baghdad got blown up. I was very upset. I was very angry. They had these really nasty, greasy chicken sandwiches. They put French fries and mayo on top. Oh man, it did not suck. Oh, it was so good. And I was there, I left, and some suicide bomber came in and blew the place up. So getting used to actually being able to like get out of your vehicle and not clear 360, little things like that, you get away from them pretty quick, but you catch yourself doing them. So you just have to get used to, like, it's just life. But at the same time, you guys tick me off constantly. Not just you guys, it was just civilians did. So what do I use? I don't know. There's a self-discipline piece, I guess, that you walk away with. You can't help but get. My jobs weren't conducive to like civilian life. So they're not necessarily things you carry in per se. There have been some people who have come to me since asking me to train them in certain techniques. So I've done that on the side, taught people how to safely use certain weapons and stuff, but that's doesn't have any real place in a polite society per se. I don't know what I use. I don't know. I'm not sure. Even if I do use things, I'm not necessarily sure that it's from the war. Is it just from being in the Army a long time that you just do things a certain way? You know what I mean? You get familiar, comfortable with certain things, and they just stick with you. I don't think it's a result of war. I think it's just a result of perpetual training. My wife hates that I have one really bad habit that I was never able to break. You know, hampers exist for clothing. Every night, clothing goes on the floor next to me. There's always a set there. And that comes from when I first went in the Army. You would have these alerts because I had 2 hours to be ready, equipped, and moving out the gate to go fight the Russians. So what do you put on the floor next to you? All your grip. There's no thought. When you hear a sound, you jump up and you react. I still have that problem. I can't have certain sounds as my alarm clock because if I hear that sound, it means like there's a gas attack or it means it's what's called a lariat advance. And I will just go in autopilot. If you're sleepy, you just go in autopilot mode. You're jumping up, you're throwing clothes on, and you're running out. It's kind of strange. I remember years ago, I woke up one night yelling, "Where's my gas mask?" Because her alarm accidentally went off. She set some daytime thing, and it had this weird beep sound that sounded like an M8 alarm. That was kind of humorous after the fact. At the time, it wasn't. I was throwing crap, throwing pillows, and looking for my, I kept yelling, "Where's my 17?" Because that's what we called the gas mask. And she just sat there looking at me like, "What is wrong with you?" Obviously a lot. So there. I don't know what I use.
Hey guys, I'm Steven Garcon. It's nice to meet you, Mr. Crawford. It's my first time meeting you, so I want to introduce myself. Hey, Mr. Shaw, I see you a couple times in the hall. Say hi. Mr. Shaw. Oh, I call you Abu. I like your name. It's really nice. Is that okay?
For school, Abu is my first name. Shaw is my last. Call me Mr. Shaw in school.
I will.
Yeah. One day you earn the right to call me Abu.
Okay. So Abu, did you lose anyone close? I was gonna say, did you lose anyone close to you as a result of the war? I know you kind of touched on that in the first question after when the break was over.
Oh yeah, I lost my brother. His name is Abdullah Shaw. He was killed. He was a nurse, like an RN kind of nurse, you know, like in a hospital in Freetown, the capital city of Sierra Leone. There's a Connaught Hospital, yes, that's the biggest hospital in the country, Connaught Hospital, that's where he was working. He was well liked, and they killed him. What happened was when I went to England, I sent him money, so we opened like a small, something like a pharmacy thing. In Sierra Leone, if you have money, you can open like a pharmacy. So that was kind of like our own private business, me and him. But he was running it over there, so I sent the money, the investment to start that because he's a nurse. And we hired a pharmacist kind of, you know, that will, you know, dispense the medications and stuff, prescriptions and all the other stuff. So that he never wanted to leave, you know, he never wanted to leave. He wanted to protect that asset. But I did tell him because I did bought a van that is like a 10-seater passenger van to run, and I also bought a car. I said if in case of any danger, you have to get out of there from the earnings that I got in England. But he was just the kind of person who was just too comfortable in the environment. You know, people like him, they know him, and they see him as somebody who is helping all the neighbors and all that kind of stuff. So he has that reputation. He did not leave them. And his wife is there, and he has a son. In fact, you know, so what happened was he was shot and killed. That was very shocking to me. And I was in the United States already, 1998. I think 99 January, yeah, that's when they shot and killed him. So that was a big loss to my family. My mom was not even in Sierra Leone anymore. They've already moved to the neighboring country called Guinea. So that was really, really painful. And I had to send money and stuff. That's why I went in 2000. In fact, I went there with the express purpose for the sole purpose of just going to see his grave, but I was not able to enter the country. I went to Guinea, but there was a lot of fighting going on in Sierra Leone. And the only way you can get there is using some boats, some kind of boat, and they overload those boats, you know, like the fishermen and that kind of stuff. They were using them as passenger boats, you know. You get in there, you go through the sea, because you can't travel by land. The guerrillas and the military, they're fighting all over. But I did not risk it because I saw my mom, so I had to come back. But yes, I did lose my brother. But the best thing that happened to me his only son, I brought him over here. And he's right now in L2IC. He's goofy though a little bit. He's just like you guys. I raised him here. He's been here over 10, 11 years. We have the same name. And he played football for Allen High School. If you used to see the name Shaw, S-H-A-W. He went to Becker, and there was another school he went to. He likes to bounce around. And another Catholic school, I've forgotten the name of this school, Pius. He went to Pius, then Becker. And I also have my nephew, Cherno. He's right now in Moravian. But I lost my brother, but a good thing I brought his son over here. And I also lost my best friend, but that is not in Sierra Leone, that is in Liberia. One of my best friends, his name is Malal Jallo. We grew up together. We do everything in common. Like in those days when we were little kids, we used to go hunting, set traps, do all kind of stuff. Just like what people do in rural areas here. That's what we used to do. Play soccer together, run, hang out, do all kind of stuff. He went to Liberia because his uncle used to live there, and his uncle was well off. He thought he's going to further his education there. But what happened was when the Civil War came in Liberia, it took a different dimension. Charles Taylor was looking for a particular, it takes a tribal dimension to it. They were looking for the Mandingos. The president who was in Liberia then, his name was Samuel Doe. So he likes the Mandingos. He's not a Mandingo, but he likes the Mandingos. They were very loyal to him. So this guy, when he went to Liberia, he changed his last name. He picked up a last name that turned him, like a Mandingo last name he picked up. He dropped his initial last name. His last name was Jallo. He changed it to Mara or something like that. So anybody with that last name Mara is considered a Mandingo. So when the MPFL came in, that is the rebel group in Liberia, they caught him and they saw his ID. He has this Mara name. And he begged them, but they said they killed him. So that was very, very sad. That was a personal friend to me. So it was a big loss. But these are stories not only unique to me. Some people lost their entire families. Some families went extinct, I would say. They were wiped out in Sierra Leone. All right? If you read the atrocities, I cannot even start telling you. There are just so many. All right. Yeah.
This is for both of you. If there's one thing you'd like the people here today to take away from your experiences with war with your family or just life in general, what would it be?
You want to go ahead? I think if I can go ahead, I think I already answered that at the beginning, if you recall. The one thing that I like to do this is always to remind you guys that the world is not the way you have it here, the way we have it now, because I'm part of this system. I always strive for you. I don't know how I can instill that in you, that outside the United States, things are really rough. All right? And so if I wanted to take one thing here, don't take things for granted. You guys have a lot of opportunities. We have a lot of opportunities here. And if you go outside the United States and you see the people that are dying to come here, they will do anything. Look at these refugees and stuff who want to come to the United States. Guess what? They will die to get to Allen High School. We say those schools are not good. They will die to get in there and read some of those books that you're reading. They will die to get in here. This will be like a dream come true for them. And even the families, they will die and work day in, day out for their kids to have the opportunities that you have. It is not for nothing because, so the take-home message here is make use of the opportunities you have. You're in a good school. You know, relatively everybody has a place to sleep, you have food to eat and stuff. Do something for yourself, be better, because that's the only way you can contribute to society. That's the only way you can help other people, is by making yourself better first, because you'll have the knowledge and probably you have the means to organize and do stuff. That is the one thing that I want you to take out of these discussions. And don't take things for granted. This is the only country, if you go to Sierra Leone, trust me, if there's an accident, do you think you'll get an ambulance there within an hour or so to come get you? Absolutely not. There will not be an ambulance, there will not be phone calls. Maybe now they have cell phones and stuff. That there's an accident here, guys. It is very difficult. Maybe it's your parents that have to deal with it. All right? We don't have this, or we don't have welfare systems that people, if you are, you lose your job, you go collect money. It's not there. They don't have that. Even the retirement systems are broken. It's only for the elites, those people at the top. Don't have it. The societies are not structured as this. The institutions are very, very weak. All right? So that is what you have to think about. In the United States, wherever you have, if there's an accident within an hour or two, believe me, you're in a hospital, everything's smooth, you have nurses, doctors, paramedics, everybody taking care of you. That's a blessing. You don't know it, though. You don't know it. You go to a classroom, every teacher is certified, all right? Everybody has gone through training and stuff. Everything is lined up. You don't even think about it. You go into the store, you buy food, that food is all checked out for you and stuff to make sure it's okay. In other places, that's not the case. People drink water. Most of the diseases in third world countries are, they're waterborne diseases, food-related diseases, all this stuff. But in the United States, we take care of all that stuff. So you don't even have to think. Trust me, I don't think anybody here will think about, if I go home, what am I going to eat? Really? You just go open the refrigerator. Mom, what's for dinner? Oh, I don't want that. I don't want that. I want this. In other parts, you don't have that. Absolutely. You don't even see a refrigerator. So there you are. Every day you have to think about what you're going to eat the next day. You have to think about what you have to eat the next day. And people work 8, 9, 10 hours. They don't even have enough, So you're constantly going around, constantly going around. And if you have a kid, you don't have money, they don't go to school, poorly dressed, diseases, you don't have money to pay in the hospital, you don't get treated. I really want you to get that point, that you don't take things for granted and you work hard to make yourself better. I'm not saying you don't have issues and stuff, but still you have people who can help you. Use those resources. Use your resources well to be better. All right? That's all I can say.
Nothing to add to that. Somewhere along the line, we forgot that you got to earn. You guys expect, you don't earn. Why don't you try to earn? Anything you got, it's because somebody else did it, right? So you can't make it right now. You can't, it's handed to you. So do something else to earn it. You haven't seen, most of you, maybe some of you have, you haven't seen poverty. Poverty in America, our most poor people in America are still richer than almost half the world's population. You ain't seen it. You haven't seen hardship. I'm not saying you haven't seen some hard stuff, but there's a reason why Army training, they try to, it's not so much anymore, but they used to back in the day. You'd go without sleep, you'd go without food, you'd go without warm clothing, because they wanted to adjust your suck meter, as we called it. It made you very tolerant of discomfort. You learned to ignore it. So things weren't bad to you until they were really, really bad. But you guys are so hypersensitive to things being it's not fair. Screw being fair. I mean, it's such a childish thing sometimes. Just do something to earn what you got. Pay it forward to somebody else. I think that's all anybody wants you to do. I had a great conversation with a student probably about a week and a half ago. He was really wasn't lamenting. I get tired of hearing people whining about your generation, because your generation is no different than the last generation or the generation before that. You just got shiny objects like phones in your pockets. You just got more stuff, right? You got the same kind of concerns and things. But he was lamenting one thing that he thinks is culturally just lost. And that's just the desire to do for somebody else, not because you get any advantage, just because it's right. Choosing the hard right over the easy wrong is something that we're losing. Don't lose it. Be better than that. You're capable of more than that. That's all people want. I don't know. I think Mr. Shaw's kind of put a good point on it. I mean, what experience about war can I tell you? Nothing. Everybody's experience is different. They don't even freaking matter. Not even a little bit. But knowing that you benefited in some way because somebody else went through suck, earn it. Just do something for somebody. That's not for you, but for them, because it's right. Just do that. Be responsible. Seek responsibility. Grab it. That's what separates the men from the boys, you know? That's all I got.
Thank you, Mr. Crawford and Mr. Shaw. Let's hear it for them. Thank you. We really can't put words to it, but I know I'm not alone when I say that I am sincerely appreciative of the stories you shared with us today, your willingness to be honest and open with us, and I know I will remember today. I know I will remember your stories, and I know I'm not alone in that. So thank you again. Let's hear it for them one more time.